Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're here inside today because I wanted to talk about something that Arwen isn't really going to help me that much with. So over the last few weeks on Mondays, we've been talking about breeding your doe and then how to care for your doe while she's pregnant and what to do with your boys and all of that good stuff. So in our series today, we're getting to the point where your babies are going to be born. And frankly, Arwen's not pregnant right now. So she's very little help in this video other than being absolutely adorable. So instead of having her here, what we're going to do is just talk about what you do in that little window, those last 10 days or so before the babies are born. Because it's an exciting time. There are a couple of things you need to do. And then next week, we'll talk about the actual delivery, when you're actually having babies. And that would be fantastic. But first you got to get through those last 10 days. So about a week before the due date, and let's just clarify, most breeds of goat are due between 145 and 155 days. So because you don't know when in those 10 days they're going to have their kids, you are going to assume it's going to be day 145. Because it is better to assume that she's coming early than late. Because if you're late, okay, you just wait a few extra days. But there are a couple of things you need to do, a couple of monitoring things, looking after your doe, that you should pay attention to in those last 10 days. And if you're assuming she's not going to have her kids until day 155, you might not have done the things and she'll have already had her babies. So, 1 week before that due date, so a week before day 145, you're looking at about day 138, 137, somewhere in there, you want to start monitoring your pregnant doe, okay? No two goats are exactly the same. And so this becomes an issue because Arwen is not going to react the same or behave the same when she's about to have her babies as another goat. Every goat is an individual. However, a goat that has previously had kids is probably going to repeat the same cycle, the same meet all the same milestones in the same time frame. So typically a goat that bags up or her udder fills with milk getting ready to have a baby, if she bags up at 5 days before having a baby, that's normal for her then. So then you assume every time she has kids that day 5 days out is when she bags up. So 5 days later, you're getting babies. So you can kind of predict within that same doe. But from one doe to another, they can be very, very different. So kind of go with generalities if your doe is a first-time mom. But if she has had kids before, then you can probably predict what she'll do and when on that kind of time scale that we're building. So 10 days before, start keeping an eye. So it is normal for moms to start building an udder, so for their udder to start getting larger 4 to 6 weeks before you have the baby. However, bagging up, which is when that udder actually fills with milk and you're able to kind of get some milk out of one of her teats, that tends not to happen until about 10 days before. Okay, that'll start to happen then. She'll start to bag up. That's what we call it, bagging up. Right when she is about to have babies, so within the last couple of days, that udder will feel really full, really tight, and quite warm, not hot. Okay, there's a difference between a warm udder and a hot udder. An udder that is hot and red, you're probably looking at an infection. But an udder that is tight and full and quite warm to the touch with no extra redness or anything, that probably just means she's bagging up and getting ready to have the baby. Something else you want to check, you want to start checking those tail ligaments about 10 days before she starts to even get into that window of giving birth. You want to start checking those tail ligaments. Okay, these kind of, if you run your fingers up and down on either side of the tail of your goat, you're probably going to feel something that feels like a pencil. Okay, a couple of pencils on either side of that tail. They kind of stretch from the spine to the pin bones. Okay, so they kind of go, and you can see the pin bones on a goat. They go so for basically above the tail, then they kind of split, and they go down on either side of that butt, of their butt. So on either side of the tail, blah, 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 boom. Those are your pencils that you're looking for. These are the ligaments. These ligaments normally feel like pencils. If I were to go out and check for Arwen's ligaments, she is not pregnant right now. If I go out and look at her ligaments, if I feel for them, they're going to feel like two pencils. They're going to be quite firm. They're going to be there. You're going to know they're there. But you want to start checking about 10 days before that due date. Because if you check about 10 days before, you will notice when they start to change. And they will change. So right before she's going to have her babies, those ligaments will start to soften. So they won't feel as rigid. Okay, they'll start to feel just a little bit softer. You might not notice the difference right at first, but if you're checking twice a day, checking these ligaments twice a day from when you're 10 days out from baby time, then you will start to notice that they're softening. Okay, and softening is normal, softening is good. These ligaments have to soften so her hips can spread so she can have those babies. So when it is time to have babies, like you are 12 to 24 hours out, you will notice those ligaments pretty much disappear. They'll be so soft, squishy, and mushy, it's almost impossible to find them if you don't know what you're looking for. So that's why you want to start looking for the ligaments 10 days before. In fact, if you have a goat that is not pregnant right now, go out and play around and see if you can find those ligaments. A boy works here too. It doesn't matter. All goats have these ligaments. It's just in the females, when they are getting ready to have a baby, those ligaments soften and almost disappear. But you can even use your boy, your buck, or your wether and check and see if he's got these ligaments. He does. Practice what you're feeling for, either on a doe that's not pregnant or on a boy, it doesn't matter. And find those ligaments and get kind of used to touching those ligaments, locating them. So when your doe is pregnant and you're in those last 10 days and all of a sudden you can't find those ligaments, you actually know what you're looking for because you've had some experience playing around and finding ligaments on other goats. So do that. When they start to disappear, that's when you want to pay attention. When all of a sudden they're so mushy that you practically can't find them at all, you're 12 to 24 hours from a baby. Get ready. Okay, it is time to be ready. A day or two before that time when she has her baby, so a day or two before her actual delivery date, which again can be anywhere from day 145 to 155. But a day or two before she actually delivers, you might notice that she kind of pulls away from the herd. She goes and kind of hangs out by herself for a little while. Sometimes she'll take another female, another doe with her, pregnant or not. Could be one of her grown daughters or just a friend, a doe that she is comfortable with. Sometimes she'll take that doe with her, but sometimes she'll go by herself and she starts to isolate herself. You'll see her kind of wandering around looking for something, like she's a little bit lost. That's normal. She's thinking about where I'm going to have this baby. You also, in those last couple of days, you might see some clear discharge from her vulva. That's normal. That tells you that she's getting really close. So look for that discharge. It should be clear. If it is yellow or worse, green, you have an infection going on, call your vet. It should be clear. If it's clear, then it's normal. You just proceed as normal. You just wait. If it's yellow or green, you call the vet. The day before, or even just minutes before she has her baby, you're going to notice nesting behavior, if you're there to notice it. But you'll notice she's going to start to nest. Goats nest by pawing frequently at the ground. They turn around a lot. They lay down, and then they get up, and they lay down again. She might be doing a lot of stretching, a lot of yawning. She might kind of be making these soft sounds, almost like she's talking to the baby before it's born. All of these things are indicative of, man, I'm having a baby, and I'm having it soon. Okay? All of these signs mean get ready, make sure she's got a clean, soft, warm place to have her babies, because you do not want her having kids out in the middle of the snow. So make sure she's got somewhere warm, safe, comfortable, somewhere she feels good, because if she doesn't like it in that kidding area, the area you've set up for her, and she can get out, she will. So make sure she's happy and comfortable in that location. And then you're just on waiting duty now. If you've noticed all the signs, those ligaments have disappeared, she's acting weird, and she started to nest, now you're just waiting. And you're waiting for imminent babies. Babies are coming. When you notice discharge, When you notice the ligaments have disappeared, when you notice she's acting strange and she's starting to nest, it's go time. And when it's go time, you get your kidding kit. You either stay out there and pay attention, have a friend come pay attention, set up cameras so you can monitor the baby. That's a really good way to keep track and find out if that baby's a coming, because you do want to be there. You may not need to intervene, but you probably want to be there either at the birth or shortly thereafter. So if you either have somebody watching or you have a camera set up so you can keep half an eye on things, that's really ideal. Not all of us are that lucky. Sometimes you go out in the morning and go, and babies. That happens. But ideally, you want to be aware that it's about to happen, so if she needs your assistance, you can step in and assist her. That doesn't usually happen. I'm going to be honest, most of the time, most goats need no help from you. But in the event that mama does need help, it's good that you're there, so try to plan on being there. And plan on being there by monitoring your doe in those last few days so you notice when those signs start to shift and when you should be really aware. Also be aware that mama's probably going to have her kids at night. It happens a lot, or in the very early morning hours. She doesn't usually have them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or right when you get home from work. She's going to wait till you're supposed to be sleeping at 1 a.m. Just be prepared for that. It can be annoying, but it is the way it is. Prey animals do that. Horses do that. Cows usually do that. That happens a lot where they have their babies in the dark of night to hide them from predators. And then hopefully by the time morning comes around, baby's up, baby's able to run, they can get away from the predators if they need to. So it's really common, and it's quite an evolutionary trait for them to have their babies at night, as inconvenient as it might be for us. Of course we'd like them to have their babies at 4 p.m. as soon as we get home from work. It doesn't usually work that way. I'm not saying they all have their babies at night. There have been mamas who have their babies during the day, and I'm sure someone will chime in and say, my doe always has her babies during the day. Yeah, some do, but the vast majority are going to have them at night. So just be prepared for that possibility. So we will come back next week and start discussing exactly what you're going to need to be aware of when mama actually goes into labor. Because you want to be there for your mama goat. You love your mama goat. You want to be there beside her. You want to look after her. You want to make sure she's happy and safe. So we are going to talk about what you should do as soon as you notice signs of real labor. But until then, that's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.